Hello and welcome to you. In a couple weeks here, December 6th through the 8th, we'll have our next online retreat. We will be investigating spiritual empowerment. And so I do hope you can join. And I'm looking forward to that time together. Retreat is always such a wonderful opportunity to come and be fully here, fully with the teachings, fully with the transmission, fully with our experience. So I hope you can come. Okay. So I wanted to speak about a couple things tonight. And, one of the things I want to speak about is basic trust. And sometimes when we look out at the world, if we look at the news, if we look at social media, if we look at our past and our trauma, it can be really difficult to have a basic trust in life. And people get confused about, what a basic trust means. Often we think that a basic trust means that things will go our way, that God is on our side, and that, for some of us, we think that we're going to get what we want here on planet Earth. I trust that I'm going to get my way. And that's kind of like an egoic trust in life, trusting that things will work out for me. There's this different type of trust. Sometimes I have a really difficult time communicating. But recently I was reading Chogyam Trungpa and his classic book, The Sacred Path of the Warrior. And I really enjoyed the way he spoke about basic trust. And it's having this trust that your presence, your essence, is strong enough to face this life. You are strong enough to face this life, to deal with this life, to be with this life, in this life. And so I'm going to invite us to close our eyes and just to begin to work with a little bit of an inquiry question. Do I trust in my own innate strength? Do I trust that I am strong enough to face my life, to face my experience? Do you trust that your essence, your primordial nature will be okay, despite all the chaos and the confusion of this world? Do you trust in your innate goodness, and the innate goodness of humanity, the innate goodness of this world? Do you trust in evolution? Because it's quite obvious that humanity isn't at the final stages of enlightenment. Humanity often is quite lost. But do you trust that life is growing, is evolving, that you are growing and evolving, that your brothers and sisters on the path are growing and evolving. Do you trust the light, the clarity, the peace of your essence? You trust in it now and in the future, in the past, in eternity. Do you trust? And so feeling throughout the body. And I invite you to be honest about the places where you don't trust. The places where we argue with what is. And beyond our argument, do you trust that love is the way? Peace is the way. Do you trust in this peace which is always here? Even if we have fear about ourselves, about our experience, about others, about this world, are you willing to respond with an open heart? A tender heart? Can you be honest, deeply honest, about the places you argue? Because the places you argue are the places you don't trust. The places we don't accept. And in order to find this basic trust, we have to tell the truth. Often in this day and age, we like to speak the truth. That being our egoic ideas or philosophies or agendas or righteousness. But in order to step into this basic trust, it requires the heart of a spiritual warrior. And this type of warrior has a heart that is tender and is open, is willing to feel, is willing to experience, is willing to admit where we are scared. Where we lie, where we guard and defend. Not many people on the spiritual path are actually willing to tell the truth. The truth that I am hurting, that I am suffering, the truth that I don't know, the truth that I'm wrong, or I'm lying, or I'm confused, I'm struggling. But through this willingness to be honest, something beautiful takes place in our heart. Our heart becomes tender, becomes open. We actually begin to see that our heart is good when we tell the truth. And as we survive telling the truth, seeing the truth, acknowledging the truth, we develop a basic trust in life, a basic trust in oneself, a basic trust in humanity. So let us breathe and feel and open to this innate goodness, this primordial nature. As you see, as we're honest, you might notice this fire coming alive within you. A radiance, a kindness and a tenderness, which is pure. And so I invite you to know yourself as this purity. To know yourself as that which is good, that which is okay, fundamentally okay. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. I welcome you here into this space. This week, I met with someone and he looked at me and he told me the truth. He told me the truth about something that he had been hiding from himself and perhaps from me. And he told me that he was, embarrassed to say this. He didn't want to say this. He didn't want to admit this. But I was so touched. It was the most courageous thing I saw in a long, long time. Someone who was willing to admit that they were hiding, that they were manipulating. And to me, it was so beautiful. It was just so utterly touching to be in the space where someone was telling the truth. Often in like a therapeutic context, my job is to validate people's experience. That's like one of the tenets of psychology is you validate people's emotions and you validate their feelings. And in theory, when you validate these things, they feel a sense of relief and they can let go of that thing. But when it's not validated, we feel like, we have to scream it. We have to carry it with us. We have to shout it from rooftops until someone will listen and acknowledge our experience. And I believe, in the power of validation. I find it an incredibly healing thing. But often, I must admit, in the world of psychology, the thing that we are validating is one's ego. And so in different schools of spirituality, they say, well, if you go to therapy and you just keep validating someone's ego, then the ego just grows, right? I see it a little bit differently. Like with a child, if you validate their tears, you pick them up and you hold them, they feel met, they feel loved, and they feel safe and they stop crying. They have a sense of faith that they're loved and supported here on planet Earth. And when the ego feels loved and supported, it tends to relax. And that leads to a quieter mind. And so throughout my week, I spent a lot of time just validating people's feelings. And sometimes, and maybe I'll even say oftentimes, the things I'm validating are, well, I don't want to be harsh, but let's just say like a lot of it is just egoic nonsense, like neediness. I need to be heard and seen and honored and this and that. Or sometimes people will come and they'll tell me so and so is wrong and this is why they're wrong. Like if you ever go to couples counseling, it's like, oh my gosh, just two people in a room telling why the other one is wrong. That's to be a terrible experience. And often we refer to this as, I need to speak my truth. Speaking my truth is just this egoic dance of me telling you all the things my ego feels, all the things my ego is deluded by. I need to speak my truth. I need to tell you why these people or this tribe or this group of people or this individual is wrong. Again, that's in the framework of speaking my truth. It's not the truth. It may be a relative truth. But there's this question that comes up on the path of, what's the difference between speaking the truth and telling the truth? Well, one will set you free. The other will often lead to you being more righteous, more deluded, more entrenched. And so it's a great question, is how many of us are willing to tell the truth if we want to be free? If we want to be free, we must lose faith in our egoic mask, our egoic identity, our tribal identity. If we want to be free. And of course, to help with being free, we must tell the truth. We must be honest about the places we're not free. Honest. It's much easier for me to tell you why you are wrong than for me to admit I'm hurting and I'm scared and I'm suffering. And in this day and age, people are quick to judge, quick to tell you why you're wrong, very slow to admit how they themselves might be wrong. They themselves have been confused. And again, the point of this is, if we want to be free, we have to be honest. And it's through honesty that we unhook from that guardedness that we have in our mask. I'd like to share something. I was really touched by this quote from Chogyam Trungpa. He writes, what the warrior renounces is anything in his experience that is a barrier between himself and others. In other words, renunciation is making yourself more available, more gentle, and open to others. What the warrior renounces is anything in her experience that is a barrier between herself and others. A barrier. Righteousness, of course, is a great barrier. A great barrier. It leads to division. It leads to a sense of separation, a sense that I need to fight with you. I don't feel safe, and so I need to fight with you. I need to prove you wrong. And a funny thing is that a lot of us, we don't even argue out loud. A lot of us, we just argue internally. Like I've been a great internal arguer throughout my life. I'm not. Well, let's just say this: I'm not very fast with my words. When someone attacks me, a lot of times I just sit there and I take it, and then I walk away. And this argument just begins in my mind of how the other person is wrong. But over the years, I've come to a different way where, I walk away and I realize, gosh, this really hurts. This is really painful. This brings a lot of sadness to my heart. And when I stay with the truth that I'm hurting, instead of going with, some argument of fighting with the person in some imaginary space, I stay open to what is. I stay open to what is. I was reflecting this morning as I was meditating, and often when I sit down to meditate, the first thing I experience is sadness, great sadness. Whether it's my sadness, just in my human experience of me being in this body, have been in a body in this lifetime that it tends to live with a lot of pain. Like I have a lot of physical pain in my body for various reasons. And so it's just painful just to admit, like, I'm here in this body and it hurts. It hurts. And, some of it's my age, some of it has been chronic illness. I've been so sick this last 3 years or so. I'm getting better, but anyway, so I have my illness. I've been a series of injuries. As long as you just stop to meditate, just sit down, you take your seat, and right away it's like, oh my God, this body hurts. This body hurts. And other times I sit down and I feel the pain of my children, pain of my family. Often I feel the pain of various members in the Sangha who are suffering greatly. I certainly feel the pain of this world, tremendous pain. I feel the pain of planet Earth and all the environmental destruction that's taken place on this earth. And I feel the pain of humanity, just humans just being generally anxious creatures in this day and age. And that's, kind of a crazy place to start meditation. Many of us like to think of starting meditation with a big om. Let's sit down, let's, get in some kind of mudra and say om. And om is our first thought, our first reflection, our first experience. But often, my first experience is one of pain. And meditation teaches us, like the path of meditation teaches us to be open to our experience, to be open to what's here, to be open, courageously open, not to go into our mind and start thinking of solutions or fantasizing about this or that or running here or there. But when we take our seat in meditation, we are being open. So we have this retreat coming up we're focusing on spiritual power. And Imani said that she felt that the retreat had already begun, and we're a number of weeks away, but there's this theme that we're working on as a Sangha, is being empowered. And one of the great powers of a meditator, a seasoned meditator, seasoned practitioner on the path, is a willingness to be open, to feel and experience, to feel and experience. To stay with our experience, to stay with this openness, and dare I say, a tenderness. Like our egoic program is, if we feel pain, the idea is to run or distract, according to our egoic programming. Like that's The ego's way is run, distract, chase after something pleasurable, maybe eat some cake or something, stuff yourself with some food or whatever it is. Do anything to shut it up. But in this path of the spiritual warrior, we choose to be honest. To be honest. Like this fella who came and was speaking to me. I was just so touched, so utterly touched by this individual who was willing to be honest, willing to admit, I have a shadow here. I have some confusion. I have something within me that doesn't actually want to heal. That takes tremendous courage. Tremendous courage. The courage of a spiritual warrior to say, yeah, there's parts of me that are hiding and are sabotaging my own healing so I don't have to change. That is a huge step forward. Now, it's funny because for our ego thinks, oh, that's a big step backwards. I'm admitting defeat. I'm admitting that I'm not in control. I'm admitting that I don't know the answer. I don't know the way. But on the spiritual path, this is a huge step forward. Last week I spoke about someone in the Sangha who, well, their party lost the election, but their brother's party won the election and was at the Mar-a-Lago victory ceremony. But their willingness to be open and continue to love and have a sense of unity with their brother. That takes great courage when your team loses, but to have a willingness to not close your heart, to not shut down, to not go into hatred or division. It's a huge thing. For us to be honest and admit, like, I'm really sad that I didn't get the outcome that I wanted, but I choose to be open. I choose to love. I choose to continue to connect. I choose to forgive. And so these are two massive ways that I was really touched in the last 2 weeks of people being spiritual warriors on this path. People who are not interested in their ego being right, their ego getting their way, their ego or their shadow remaining hidden, actually bringing their ego into the light and saying, yes, this thing is here. And I choose to open, I choose to admit, I choose to acknowledge, I choose to face. And sometimes we choose to admit, or we're willing to admit, I don't know what to do with this thing. I don't know what to do. But I am willing to be open and to continue to listen, God, for your guidance. Listen to life for your guidance. Not listen to my ego for my ego's guidance. That's what most of us do. We listen to our ego for our ego's guidance. But the willingness to look out at the world and say, okay, what does the world have to say about this? Does the world support my view? Or is the world showing me something different? And it takes great courage, tremendous courage for us to admit, I was wrong. I was confused. I've been suffering. I lied. I manipulated. I sabotaged. I chose the wrong thing. I'm addicted. What are some other good ones? I have faith in my weakness, not in my strength. That's a big deal for someone to admit that. I have faith in my doubt. I have this funny thing that happens where I work with people and some people, when they struggle with doubt, they'll tell me the truth. They'll acknowledge the truth, their truth, God's truth. And then, just a minute later, they start doubting it. It's just like, I'm like, no, don't go there. Don't go there. And then they keep doubting and doubting and doubting. I'm like, no, you just acknowledge the truth. You just saw the truth in yourself. Can you stay anchored in that? And they show me that no, they cannot. They can't stay anchored in it. They can't. And that's hard. That's hard. Like when you have, some of us, we struggle with the demon of doubt. Some of us struggle with the demon of anger or overwhelming emotions or confusion. I can remember for many years, I was confused, like deeply confused in regards to a relationship I was in. And I played the should I stay or should I go game over and over and over again. And the truth was that I should go. But the egoic truth was if I left, then I felt guilt. And so then I would run back because of guilt. And I would actively ignore the truth. I knew the truth the whole time, but I sabotaged it again and again and again. And I caused great pain for myself. I caused great pain for those around me. And I noticed that the more I lied to myself, the less confidence I had. It's really hard to have confidence if you lie to yourself or if you doubt yourself, or if you're divided inside and you go from one self to the other. You can't have any confidence, if you're playing that type of game. And many people, they actually develop a sense of self-hatred. Self-hatred because they're unwilling to tell the truth. Because if you're unwilling to tell the truth, well, you can't trust yourself. If you don't trust yourself, you end up hating yourself. It's this like funny, vicious dance. It's not funny, it's really painful. Really painful. But if you're willing to tell the truth, I choose the wrong thing over and over again. I sabotage myself over and over again. If you say that out loud, like that game is going to be over pretty soon. Like you're getting near the end of it. But for those of us who lie and continue to lie, we end up hating ourselves because we don't trust ourselves. We have no faith in ourselves. And in a sense, if you lie, you should hate yourself. And I don't mean that in a mean way, but that's just like when your heart's out of alignment with the truth, you should feel crummy. And that crumminess, you should hate that. You should be like, I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel this crummy. And so maybe I'll try to do something different. Maybe I will admit that I was wrong, that I was confused, that I was divided, that I was lost, that I was influenced by something that wasn't the highest. That wasn't the highest. I was influenced by my tribe. And so then we say, please forgive me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Please forgive me for my foolishness. And when we are willing to apologize, you begin to see that there's strength within you, the strength to withstand embarrassment or humiliation, the strength to withstand, let's call it being human. Because come on, like if, let's be honest now, all humans lie. Some humans lie all the time. Like I can remember a good friend of mine, he had a girlfriend and she was a compulsive liar. It was a really bizarre experience because, we were a bunch of hippie guys, and she'd come over to the house and she'd just start lying. We just like one lie after the next, after the next, after the next. She'd spin these huge stories. And like at first it was like kind of funny. I was like, what is she going to say next? But then like I couldn't handle it because like as I felt into her, I've always been really empathetic. And as I just felt into her, I was like, oh my God, this poor girl is so deeply insecure. And I can remember just talking to her one time, and I just kind of looked at her as she was, telling these lies, and she fell apart. And then she just went into, I hate myself, and just I hate myself. Just all this self-hatred. And I was like, my God, girl, you don't have to lie. Like, it's just us. It's just us, just a bunch of silly young guys. Like, you don't have to lie to us. You don't need to impress us. You don't need to be anything different than what you truly are. Like, you don't have to. Some people play this game where they think they are not lovable. But everyone, if you look into them, if you look into their heart, if you see their true nature, you'll see there's this basic goodness in all beings. In all beings. I even had this pit bull once, and it wasn't my pit bull, it was a neighbor's pit bull. And he had to be locked up all the time because he was violent. He was an offender. Like he had bit, a number of people, a number of dogs, and so he'd be kept like locked in a bedroom like for his whole life. And I felt terrible for this poor dog. And I used to walk by, he was the house right next to mine, and I'd take my little dogs on a walk, and he would just bang on the window. And I thought, oh my God, this dog is going to just like break himself. He's going to break through the glass, because it wasn't even like a real house. It was like like a trailer, and trailers don't often they don't have real windows. They have like really thin windows. And he'd just be banging on that window. I was like, man, this dog is going to come out and attack me and Doodles and Buster. It's going to be a bloodbath, you know. But I was scared. Like I was really scared of this dog. But you know, there were times because you know my friend, the neighbor, I was friends with this kid, and when I got to see the dog and you know up close, and you know this dog was made of basic goodness. He was basic goodness. His soul was good. His heart was good. But boy, were his emotions a mess. His emotions were really scary. He's ready to kill. He was ready to kill. And, you know, so he needed a boundary around him. But like even this dog that would just wanted to kill me, wanted to kill my little friend Doodles, you know, my little puffball. If I just looked at this pit bull, I looked into his eyes, I looked into his heart. And when I looked into his eyes, I actually saw like there was like anger like coming out of his paws, actually coming out of his chest. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw, oh, there's just so much sadness in him from having to be locked up for his entire life. You know, the dog was rescued. I don't know if that's the right word. He was rescued, yeah, because he was going to be killed, euthanized because of his violence. But he was picked up by a no-kill shelter, and then you know, this neighbor boy who had no business adopting this dog. He adopted the dog and, you know, basically just had to lock the dog in a little bedroom, you know, for its life. You know, and the neighbor, when he'd come home from work, you know, at 6 or 7 o'clock, he'd take him on a little walk and then, but he would just be locked up the whole day, his whole life. And that's the confusing thing about this world is everyone, as you feel into their soul, you feel into the fabric of this world. I don't care what you are, you know, Israeli, Palestinian, Iranian, Ukrainian, Russian, American, Democrat, Republican, whatever. We are all innately good. All are innately good. And on top of our goodness, we have our human nature, which, you know, like sometimes my human nature is really skewed. Sometimes it's a little bit skewed. And sometimes it's a perfect reflection of this light. And of course, that last one is the rare one. And as human beings, we have so much in us that skews, that veils our light, that veils our divinity, that veils this innate goodness. And for some of us, it's so veiled that we have no choice but to have total faith in our egoic thoughts and emotions, ideology, beliefs. And of course, that's why our world is the way it is. And it's rare when an individual actually has a trust in their own goodness, in the goodness of life, the goodness of humanity. It's a rare thing. But my God, is it a precious thing? A precious thing. It's much more, I don't know if this is the right word, standard, you know, to is believe the thoughts in our head and the thoughts of our that have been conditioned by this outer world. Conditioned to be this way or that way, conditioned to be righteous or guarded or defended, or conditioned to be, blue or red, black or white, this or that. The other day, we were laughing at my house because my wife had some of her Chinese conditioning come out. I can't remember what it was, but there's something my wife did and my daughter did, and it was, like they had some of their Chinese conditioning come through. Now, most days, my wife's Hawaiian conditioning comes through. It's like, but occasionally, she gets a little bit of her Chinese conditioning that comes through. And it's, I don't want to say it's wrong or it's bad. I mean, these are the things that create diversity and some flavor here on planet Earth. But this question, if we want to be free, can we rest in the open view? The view that's not obstructed, that's not biased. That's quite a difficult thing here on planet Earth. Quite a difficult thing because we live in a tribal world, and the tribal world wants us to join their tribe, be a part of my tribe. They don't say that, but that's really what they want. They want us to be in their tribe. Maybe we are in their tribe. Maybe we're ready to be done with that tribe. And if we choose to leave a tribe, we have to be willing to surrender all those tribal beliefs. In order to surrender them, we have to first admit that we have them. That I have these tribal beliefs. I've been influenced by my tribe. And again, that's not the worst thing. Like sometimes the tribe is really beautiful values and beliefs, but sometimes they're not so helpful. Most beliefs, if we want to be free, are not helpful. Most beliefs create these barriers, that Chogyam Trungpa was speaking about. To be a spiritual warrior, we're in the game of renouncing barriers between us and life, between us and our fellow human beings. In this day and age, most people like to have a tribe. And they adopt all the beliefs of the tribe. And our world's gotten so silly lately. It's you go and you speak to someone from a different tribe and you see that they live in a totally different reality than the reality of your tribe. And then, of course, the ego, it wants to destroy things it doesn't understand. It doesn't want to tolerate things it doesn't understand. When I was young, I went and hung out with the Sandinistas. I don't know if anyone knows who the Sandinistas are, but with some folks and some communists in Nicaragua. And let me back up a little bit. So I was in college, and in college, I was taught that communism is a great idea, and it's the the right way. Capitalism is for, full of greedy, demonic people or something, something. They were terrible human beings for the capitalist, and the good, wholesome people were the communist. And so it's like, okay, well, let's go check this out. So I went, I spent, a couple weeks, hanging out with the Sandinistas, and they were beautiful people. They were sweet. They worked together, and I was like, gosh, it's a really great system. Like they all kind of like farmed together and planted together. And they did something too with the ecology that I really liked. I think they didn't allow pesticides and this type of things. I think I could be confused about that, but I remember them, being engaged in organic gardening, or excuse me, organic farming. I was like, this is such a beautiful system. And I really enjoyed, hanging out with these folks. And at some point they got real excited, and they said, Craig, they couldn't say my name. They said it some funny way. I can't remember what they called me. It was like sea leg. I don't know how they got that, but I don't know if that was their Spanish or what, but they couldn't do an R for some reason. So they called me like sea leg. And they wanted to take me to their zoo. And so one day, they took me to their zoo, and I want you to imagine a zoo in Nicaragua. Oh my God, it was the most horrific thing I've ever seen. Just the conditions that these animals were living in. It was just, the people lived in poverty. So when you have impoverished peoples having a zoo, like I'm totally against zoos in every different way, But if you see a zoo in the third world, a developing nation, it's like, it's heart-wrenching, heart-wrenching. You see these animals, because I see like a sloth, and it's just in this like chicken wire cage with a mud floor, and it's just horrific, horrific, horrific. And I thought, oh, I guess everything in the communist world isn't, just peachy, isn't just perfect, isn't better than in the capitalist world. And again, I don't want to get into any kind of argument about communism versus capitalism, but it just popped one of my bubbles that I had, because everything was all real peachy and people were getting along, and the children were so sweet and everything. But then we went to their zoo. I was like, oh my God, this is like a horror movie. It was horror. Just seeing the way these villagers, they set up a zoo. I was like, please, I wanted to go in at night and just cut all the cages, cut all the chicken wire and just let all the animals run free. But of course I didn't. But hell, I might have. I might have. It was just so heartbreaking, so heartbreaking. And so to be awake in this world, we have to be willing to allow our heart to be broken again and again and again. We have to be willing to admit that my ego, my view, my mental view, my ideology is wrong. My view creates division. My view creates barriers between me and life. And through admitting this, through feeling the pain of those barriers, we come into this open view. This open view, which is beyond right and wrong, which is beyond my tribe and your tribe. It's beyond tribalism altogether. And that's the invitation tonight. That's the invitation this day. Is for us to put down all the thoughts, all the beliefs, all the barriers, whatever those barriers are. whatever they may be, if you want to be free. If you want to be free. And it all starts with a radical honesty. Honesty of telling the truth. Telling the truth. And sometimes the truth is, I lie to myself all day long. I lie to myself all day long. I think I know how life should be. And every ego does this. Every ego thinks they know how life should be. Every ego plays this game. Every ego does this dance. But when you're willing to admit this, that I think I know better than you. And when we say that out loud and we feel the pain in it, we feel the division in it. If there's anything within us that wants to be awake, we say, I gotta let go of this. I gotta let go of this. I got to let go of my righteousness if I want to be free. Because the truth is not that I'm right and you're wrong. The truth is that you and I are one. The truth is life is good. Good. Life is okay. We are okay. We are growing together. The world is growing together. And some days I'm confused. Someday you're confused. Someday we are confused. Someday we're all together in this hot mess. And the truth is, it is all so utterly beautiful. And the truth is also, it's all so utterly heartbreaking. Jennifer brought this beautiful question last week, like, Craig, like, how do we practice? How do we not be reactive when life is insane? Like, how? Like, how do we show up? And of course, there's all kinds of, little tricks I could speak about, but I don't like little tricks. I like to teach attitudes or perspectives. When our life is falling apart, if we come back to our experience and look inside and see that our heart is good, and then whoever, whatever in life that we're trying to help, whoever we're trying to save, we see that their heart is good, that they are fundamentally okay. That they are fundamentally okay. I told you all this last year in March, I lost my little friend Doodles, and I love Doodles so much. But on the day, he went to heaven, like he was really suffering in his body. He was really struggling. But when I looked into his eyes, I saw he was okay. Like he was okay to die. He was okay to die. He was okay to leave his body. Of course, my ego wanted to hold on to him forever, forever, forever. Hold on to him forever. And I feel his presence with me right now. So I know, Doodles, you're with me, buddy. But I wanted to hold on to him forever. But he looked at me with his eyes, his heart, his presence. He told me it's okay. It's okay for him to go now. And it takes great courage to hear the truth, to see the truth, to honor the truth. It takes great courage to admit all the places you want to hold, resist, or fight, but then choose to open and let go instead. And so much love to each of you. I invite you to bring your palms to your heart. I invite us all to stand before the divine and to acknowledge our human weakness, to acknowledge our human confusion, to acknowledge the parts of our heart that are broken, to acknowledge the parts of our mind that are righteous, to acknowledge the places inside that have lied in order to get our way, the places that have sabotaged in order to hide ourselves from the truth because we're afraid of changing or we're afraid of stepping into something greater. And I invite you to join me in asking for heavenly support to come here. Oh Lord, come here and give us the strength to open, to love, to tear down the walls, the barriers that we put up between us and others, between us and you, Lord. The walls that we put up between us and life. We ask you, Lord, to give us the strength to love more deeply, to open our hearts more fully, to forgive ourselves, to forgive others, to forgive this world. We ask you to come into this world and flood our world with peace, with kindness and compassion, and that you make us instruments, that you give us the strength to be instruments for your will. And we ask you to give us the support to live in alignment with the laws of nature and to honor and to respect this beautiful world, this beautiful world that we live in. We thank you, Lord, for this night, this day, this moment, this teaching. We ask you to continue to uplift us and bring us ever more deeply into your heart. Amen. And so much love to each of you. Boy, I'm really, really choked up tonight. Just by all of you and your beauty and your innocence and your willingness to show up in this way. So good to be with each of you. Good night, everyone. We'll see you soon.